Boom, how we doing? Welcome. Anyone who watched, thank you for watching. Praise Source. Okay, we're going to talk about creation here. Okay, we're going to talk about non-physical to physical creation and possibilities. Okay? You know, I find funny, no matter if you believe in the Big Bang, if you believe there's no God, if you believe that it's just randomness that created us, no matter what you believe, we have to think, how did a chair come to be? How did someone create a pen like this? Okay? So, Plato had a theory, okay? It's called Plato's theory of forms. I recommend everybody go look up Plato's theory of forms to figure out what I'm talking about, because once you understand this, you start to understand a lot of truth in things. What does non-physical to physical mean? Well, what did the Father say? He said, I've created all things seen and unseen. Well, the only thing we can see is physical or physicalness things that are obviously physical to our senses. Unseen are things that are obviously we don't know, right? And people will be like, I don't believe in that stuff. I don't believe in stuff that I can't, generally feel, right? What I find funny, because we have unseen things happening to us all the time. We breathe air that we can't see, but we can feel. We feel emotions that come out of seemingly nowhere into interaction of information. Somebody steps on my shoe and I get really upset. Where is that? What is that? What is that feeling that I'm getting out of nowhere? That's unseen. And the reason why I say that is that there are things unseen in this world that affect us. But then there are other things that are unseen that don't affect us. The reason why is that we believe human beings have been taught to more than not believe in their own experiences than to believe in the possibility of other experiences. Meaning that we are at a true loss for conceptuality. We are at a true loss for understanding the conceptual world. That's why we really have minds, to think and to try to see the possibilities of things, okay? But ultimately, a person will always believe what they can sense rather than believe what they can think could be possible. That's what it is. You could think that getting punched in the face is going to hurt, but when you get punched in the face, now you know it really hurts. And that's understandable, right? And this is why Plato's theory of forms is very important, because if you understand Plato's theory of forms, you will then start to understand why. You will start to understand non-physical to physical creation and possibilities, because you need to understand these concepts to understand why we're here. If you care about creation, origin, or why people are here, then you should care about this. Boom. Okay. To give a general explanation of Plato's theory of forms is pretty much saying that everything in this world has a form to it. And it's like a square, right? This square has an actual perfect square of it. And then all things outside of that perfect square that's kind of like it or almost it are different variations of it, different degrees of the perfect triangle. This triangle obviously is not perfect. I'm not an artist. I can't make a perfect triangle, But it's still a square. Everybody would still say that's a square. Okay? So then you start to understand, is this the square? That's the question. No, of course not. It's not the square. It's part of the square, though. What does that mean? That means that everything has a form of it. And you can either be closer to that form or further away from that form. Okay? That there is a hierarchy in existence. And it's non-physical conceptuality. Because of our lack of understanding, we'll probably never make the perfect square, triangle, circle, but we may get close. You know, because perfection is truly something that's very hard to accomplish, if not impossible. The only one that can truly do it would be the creator of the form of a circle. So what does that mean? What is the form of a circle? Well, that would mean that whoever created the idea of a circle, they are the only ones that can get close to it being perfect, because they're the creator. So what they said was perfect is perfect. And even if perfect to them was this messed up circle like that, that's what's perfect. That's a perfect circle. It's just our interpretation would say something like that is a little bit more perfect, but we're not the creators of that circle, so we have no idea. But we kind of have, clues and stuff like that when it comes to what, if it's more perfect, et cetera, et cetera. Now, in Plato's theory of forms, it said like, the closer something is to the perfect form of it, the closer you get to God. And this is anything. This is not just physical. This is anything. This is if you have an idea in your mind, and that idea is worked on and conceptualized and created and formed in a way that is closer to its most perfect form that it can be, you are closer to God. Why? Because only the source can create the perfect form of anything, because it is the decider of what the perfect form would be. Okay? We're just guessing. Anything that humans create is just guessing. And we do it based upon all these other intentions that aren't really based upon trying to make the best of it. It's really, we make it with the intention of how it best can serve us. Okay? So no one's going to create something that's the best version of itself, but hurts the individual or people around. It just doesn't make any sense for that. Unless like someone like chaos, like an evil person. Okay? So, some of these concepts and ideas I've thought over a lot. Okay? And I've read the Bible, origin, stories of creation, other religions, their Norse religion, Greek religion. And they all really have similar stories when you talk about creation. Something came out of nowhere, and then it created more of it, and then those created more, and those created more, right? Usually it's a point, and then that point creates more points, and then the points of the points create more. And then it's an endless, creation, right? Well, Plato's theory of forms is very interesting because it says that, you cannot make a chair without the idea of a chair. You cannot create anything in this world or manipulate it without first having some idea of the design you're creating, aka the blueprints. Blueprints don't start off paper, they start off in our minds and we put it on paper. Okay? Once you start to understand that idea that, this pen wasn't just created because it didn't come from divine reality. Remember, we talked about that in a video. It came from individual reality. Someone thought of it. Meaning that, more than likely, there is a hierarchy. There is a dimension of information. And I'll talk more about this later, but I'm going to just touch on it. That I believe that there is a dimension where all information exists. People call this the Akashic records, the cloud system, God's realm, whatever. But if you truly understand that God created all things seen and unseen, extend that to all conceptual ideas, thoughts, and non-physical reality. And then when you start to think, oh, when human beings create things, we imagine it, and then we take the divine reality, we take the tools and disposal of the planet and resources around us to try to make it. Okay? And remember what I talked about. You're not going to make something or create something in the divine reality that extends outside what is possible within the divine reality. AKA, you're not going to suddenly create a new element on a periodic table out of nowhere. No, that element existed. You discovered it. And if God really created all things seen and unseen, that would mean that he created all information that could be. This is when comes possibilities. Okay? So that's the idea, which I believe to be true. And we have so many, examples of this in all world. McDonald's. Whatever form McDonald's could have been, you would think, oh no, the McDonald's were created by three brothers. No. That three brothers discovered the idea of McDonald's through their minds, and then they implemented it, manipulated, and executed it in this reality. Okay? So we'll talk more about that later, okay? But it should be obvious that for us to create things in this world, they come from our minds. Cameras, this shirt, my pants, my belt, wasn't just here. We thought of it and then created it, okay? That's imagination. Non-physical to physical, okay? So then you think, all right, well, source. How did source do it? Well, know that everything in this world is energy. This is energy. This is energy. Everything around us is energy vibrating at a different speed. That's everything. That a chair is vibrating at a different speed than water. That if you could get a chair, the matter of a chair, to vibrate and move at the same frequency and speed as water, it would change to be water. Period. We just don't know how to do it. All right. So it should be obvious that human beings have the ability to create things from our imagination using the tools around us. What did Source have around it? It had energy, because everything is created from source energy. That's why everything is matter. So everything is source energy. So, the question becomes, was Source sentient? Who knows? But at some point it must have became sentient, because it started to put characteristics of reality. It started to say, Genesis, let there be light. For a light to even exist, the idea of light must have existed first. Just how before human beings created that camera, the idea of the camera must have existed first. And then we connect to the idea and then bring it from our imagination into this world. That is what Source did. But it didn't do it. It didn't connect to another realm to pull out that information. It is the first piece of information that gave other information descriptive characteristics of existence. That is creation. That Source just had ideas of how things would be. Period. And then, based upon certain points of information, everything, I'm going to tell you right now, everything in this world is based off two powers: love and fear. Those two, that is most primal base information that extends and extends and extends and multiplies and mutates to create other forms of existence, at least in this reality. What do I mean by that? That all ideas, all non-physicality ideas, forms, and creations that are there and yet to be created all come from love or fear. And the longer existence is allowed to flourish, manipulate it, and connect to other realms of information, the more the mutations become wider and wider to understand. It's like, well, how did someone create a chair from using the information of love and fear? That doesn't make any sense. It's a chair. You sit down. Who knows? Maybe one son saw his mother struggling to sit down way in the past, and he said, I want someone to sit right here on a rock. And then, oh, well, that rock is bumpy. Okay, let me remove this, and somehow it became a chair. So, we don't really 100% know how it came to be because we're not in a person's mind. But love and fear, it makes sense. If you truly understand why something got created, you would probably always come back to the origin of that to be love or fear. Doesn't matter if it's the computer, a bike, a sandwich, a water bottle. Somehow, some way, the emotional energy of love or fear was used to create it. Period. It's just hard to really understand how that was, but it makes sense. And this is why when you do things in this reality, really everything in this reality is a law. This is the law of this reality. That you have two choices: to do things out of fear or do things out of love. Period. Period. If I walk by and see someone in pain, I can either help or keep walking. Of course, there's a million things I can do, but no matter what I do, whatever action I take will fall under love, kindness, joy, being a good person, or being a messed up person, right? And you start to see that, oh, yeah, it's love or fear. How do you connect with God or source? Like, when you start to read spirituality and these mysticism and divine books, you see that if you're a loving person, the more loving you are, you connect. You connect to the Father. But also you see in a lot of stories that demons and negative entities can connect with God and the spiritual realm out of fear. It just takes a lot of it. Okay? Yin and yang. All right. So love or fear, that's my belief. But either way, you start to see the conceptual idea that for anything to come into this reality, it had to be non-physical first. What does that mean? It had to just be information. The information of the chair existed in another reality. Okay? Our minds are connected to that reality. All right? So when we think of something and we gain information on whatever we think about, we can mutate it and start to think of other forms and variation of that form. If I have wood and I intimately know the nature of wood, I will start to see what I can create from wood. Chairs, beds, spikes, sticks, lumber, whatever. I will see the possibility of what I can create. The more information you acquire, the more possibilities extend in your mind in this reality. Okay? And then once you understand the possibilities and you understand how it's created, you will start to create. You couldn't create the camera before understanding the previous forms of what the camera was before it became a camera or a video recorder. Okay? So this is how Source did it. Source created all information that can ever exist in the world. You have to understand, certain information cannot exist without other pieces of information. Okay? You cannot create the video recorder without having the camera first. It wouldn't make sense. You're skipping steps. They wouldn't understand how to make the video recorder without the camera. Okay? Period. So all non-physical things is information of everything. Of ideas, thoughts, concepts, chairs, physicality, fights, events, possibilities, everything that you can think of exists already in the non-physical realm. Okay? This is what God meant when he said, I've created all things seen and unseen. All right? He meant things that exist in this reality, the information that exists within this reality, and the information that exists in all dimensions, reality, and all of existence. Bada bing, bada boom. And then, when we connect to this information of non-physicality, ideas, thoughts, and concepts, we start to understand the possibilities. Okay? When you understand the possibilities, you can start doing things with that. You can start creating and understanding various forms of information. And then you can start creating things. All right? This is why God said that I'm creating humans like me. Because God is the mind. The aspect of God that we relate to, that no other animal has, is our ability to understand, process information, and understand the possibilities of that information, while also executing them. Understanding. Just how a supercomputer or a computer or video game, it takes the information, understands it, and manipulates it. We do the same thing in real physical 3D time. Okay? He gave us that ability. The same way how Source was in the void, was in nothingness, pure black. It was all black. And then it started to gain sentience of, I am everything, but what can I also not be while also being it? How can I split myself into something else besides everything? Well, it couldn't do that without also being a part of it, okay? So it started to gain an aspect of intelligence, of information. That was the second creation, ultimate creation of the divine source, was information. Okay? And in using that information, the more information it attained, the more it thought and pondered, the more it created. Because the source creates regardless if it wants to or not. As soon as something is thought upon, the energy of source automatically creates it. Okay? So all information exists in the non-physical world. We connect to it using our minds, and then the more information the individual gathers, it connects to other possibilities of existence. And possibilities start to exist. Because if we create, we put information in this world. If we put in this world, we allow other people to consume that information, and then now they have all the information they have gathered on their individual life, and then they take in that information of somebody else, and then now new possibilities have formed. And this is what Plato's theory of forms is really trying to say. That information existed in a non-physical sense. Data existed. Information existed. My house and all forms of my house existed before my house physically came here. This is why, and we're going to go, and I'm still on creation, but we're going to go but yeah, no, that's how we create. Okay, that's how God created, right? And then, so God took, I say it's love and fear. I know it's love and fear, but to make it a little bit easier, creation by source. It took one piece of information. Very easily how I created. Source is very intelligent, most intelligent. It took one piece of information, one piece, okay, about this reality. So it split itself. So just imagine that this whole whiteboard is source. And it said, I'm going to separate myself into this information. Boom. But I'm going to give that information the ability to think and ponder. Just how it did with us. But this is non-conceptual information. That information duplicated itself. And then the information that duplicated itself again. And then that did it again. This is how creation really works. That the information mutates and mutates and keeps mutating. Now, yes, this information already exists. So whatever this information can mutate and become already exists. But it becomes more real. What do I mean? Well, if all information exists, that means all realities actually do exist. Okay? But this reality has certain divine law, divine information that cannot be changed. So there are certain elements of information that cannot reach us. We may know of it conceptually, but it can't be created and implemented in this physical reality. Can't be done. Only this information, the base information, the prime information, prime info, the singular point, and all things that is possible from that singular point can be created in this reality. So if you start to understand what is that singular point, you start to understand what's possible in this reality. Well, who knows what that singular point is? But 100%, I believe love and fear is that singular information, and all things are created all from love and fear. Now, where's your example? What's your proof? Blah, blah. All the stories of creation, when there are stories, like in Norse or older mythology, or Adam and Eve mythology, it's that a singular point of information was created. Adam and Eve, man and woman. And they had children, and those children had children, and those children had children, and those children had children. Or in Greek mythology, Nyx, the goddess of the night sky, and Gaia and Earth, and all these gods, aspects of reality that personified into livable form, created this and this and this and this child and this, and gave. What does that sound like? It sounds like information giving birth to other forms of information that can also give birth to other forms of information. What does that mean? That information is alive. It's alive. All information can give birth to other forms of information. And because of this is why the galaxy is always expanding. The galaxy is expanding because we are taking information from the Akashic records, from the God's realm, from the cloud, whatever you want to call it. I call it imagination. And the more information we bring in this world, the more this world extends and extends and extends. The galaxy expands. Because the more we think of things and ideas we create, those ideas take on a life of themselves and create other realities, existence, gods, deities, and other forms of information. This is what creation is about. This is true creation. What are human beings but just amalgamation of information that has become sentient of itself? What do Greek gods talk about? God of war. The God of war is war personified in human form that can walk around and talk. Information taking on a life of itself. What is a camera? Information taking a life of itself, but using us to create it because we connect to that information. It gets pretty scary, okay? I'm going to break your foundations of reality, guys. I am going to dominate it. Ain't no games around here. Okay, so that's pretty much creation. Information is alive. There's nothing you can say, think that isn't alive. When you speak of it, you bring it from the information, from the imagination into this realm. As soon as you think of it, it's already too late. You're already done. Then when that information is alive, it takes on a life of itself. And I'm getting to the end closing of this, but I'm going to use love and fear as great examples. If love and fear, let's just say love and fear is a prime source, right? Love and fear is love? Oh, sorry. I'm messing up. Fear. Let's say those are two main origin points. Okay? Where do you think kindness came from? Love. What do you think hiding came from? Fear. Where do you think joy came from? Love. What do you think where do you think safety came from? The idea. Fear. And this list can go on and on and on. When I mean that, these ideas gave birth to more ideas. And these ideas will give birth to more ideas. What's another idea of kindness? Kindness giving birth to helping, to nurturing, joy, happiness, feeling good, feeling, hiding, running away, I'm scared, etc., etc. So we start to see that information isn't just stand still. It breathes. It comes alive. It takes a life of its own. We're going to talk more about information, okay? But that's creation, okay? And to sum up everything is that the source, the energetic energy of creation that gave birth to all things of existence, put a little tiny bit of information, allowed it to become somewhat sentient or aware, and it kept creating other variations of itself. And once you do that, just how Adam and Eve, or a man and woman, can have kids that 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 can have kids, and you have a huge, crazy family. Information doing this constantly. And we are conduits of doing this. We are prophets of information. We are the bringers of information in this world. It's alive. It's real. But it's alive in a conceptual realm. And sometimes information can be brought into the physical world. We have that power. That we have the power to bring things from the imagination land into this reality. But it's limited based on what can happen in this reality. All right. Thanks for listening. Please comment, like, subscribe. Let me know if you like these ideas, if you like these concepts, or if you want me to talk about any other concepts. Peace.